So we're going to be graphing linear inequalities. We'll be solving them too. I'm going to be making some changes to a lot of the problems that are on this sheet, so please don't work ahead from me today. Please do not work ahead, because I'm going to be changing some of these problems. There's some great examples on here, but there's not a lot of variety, so I want to make sure you guys are seeing a little bit of everything. So we're gonna use this box to kind of put our important notes, and we'll keep coming back to this as we go along. So here's what I need you to know to get started. Those are the 4 inequality signs. When you guys learned about these, did you learn about the alligator? What about the alligator? Alligator always wants to eat the bigger thing, right? So when you see something like this, the bigger thing is going to be on the side with the alligator's mouth, okay? What's the difference between these top 2 symbols and the bottom 2 symbols? Do you guys know what the difference is? Yeah, this little line underneath means it can also be equal to. So this would be greater than, and this is less than. What's this next one? Is that less than or greater than? The thing on the left would be the bigger thing or the smaller thing? It'd be less than or equal to. Good, thank you for throwing that in. Less than or equal to. That's what that line on the bottom means, is the or equal to part. And this would be greater than or equal to. One more little trick I got to show you before we start graphing these things. When we do greater than or less than on a number line, we're going to use an open circle, an open dot. When we do less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, we use a closed dot. This is why I need to kind of change some of these examples, because we don't have a lot of examples of both of those. So we're going to do this first one as is, but I am going to change the second example. Please do not work ahead from me, because I'm going to be changing most of these examples today. So this first one says K is K bigger than or smaller than? K is smaller. How can you tell K is smaller? Because the alligator's eating the other thing, right? The alligator eats the bigger thing. So K is smaller. -5 is bigger. Can you guys find -5 on the number line and draw me should this be an open dot or a closed dot? Closed dot. Draw me a closed dot at -5. And then we're going to make an arrow that goes in the direction of K. You told me a minute ago K was smaller, right? Which direction is that? Is that to the right or to the left? To the left. So make me an arrow that's going to the left. And that would be our graph. K is less than -5. Let's do another one. We're going to change this one. This is going to be x greater than -2. So the first thing we got to decide is, where is our dot going to go, and is it going to be an open dot or a closed dot? What do you think this time? Open dot at -2. So find -2 and give me an open dot this time. And then we have to decide which way is the arrow going to go. Now look at the sign and tell me, is x bigger or is x smaller? X is bigger. The alligator is eating the x. The alligator always eats the bigger thing. So we want to shade in the bigger direction. The bigger direction is to the right over here. So my arrow this time is going to be pointing to the right. So far, so good? All right. Next, we're going to go over solving. And I'm going to put some notes up here. When we solve inequalities, it's the same way that we solve equations, except for one thing. And we're going to write this down. If you multiply or divide on both sides by a negative number, then you need to flip the sign. Do you know what I mean by flip the sign? A less than would become greater than, or greater than or equal to would become less than or equal to. You just flip the sign around. And this only happens when you're solving and you multiply or divide on both sides by a negative number. So in algebra, when we're trying to get x by itself, we will do the same thing to both sides of the equation. If we ever find ourselves multiplying or dividing on both sides by a negative number, we got to flip the sign. So let's solve a couple of these. Again, folks, I'm going to be changing these, so please do not work ahead. I also wish that I'd given you some more room underneath. We're actually going to just do the work off to the side here, and then we'll graph them over here. So the first one we're going to keep the same. I'm going to change it to an x, though. And I'm going to rewrite it over here so we have some room underneath. So it's going to be x minus 1 greater than negative 10. If I wanted to solve this equation, if I wanted to get x by itself, what would I do on both sides? How would I get rid of this minus 1 here? Plus 1. Go ahead and write plus 1 on both sides. We can cross this off. Now, before we move on to the next step, since this is an inequality, we have to ask, do we need to flip the sign? Did we just multiply or divide on both sides by a negative number? No, so the sign stays the same. We got x greater than negative 10. Negative 9, thank you. X greater than negative 9. So go ahead and graph that. Find me negative 9 on your number line. Open dot or solid dot? Open dot at negative 9. And the alligator is eating the x, so we want x to be bigger than that. So we're going to go to the right. Crossing out the next one because I'm changing it. All right, this one's going to say x, sorry, not x equals, x plus 6 is less than or equal to 20. X plus 6 is less than or equal to 20. Let's get x by itself here. What am I going to do on both sides? Minus 6. Minus 6. That should cancel my 6's, get me x by itself. The big question is, should I flip my sign? Did we add or did we multiply or divide on both sides by a negative? No, there is a negative number here, but we didn't multiply by negative 6. We just subtracted 6. So the sign stays the same. 20 minus 6 is 14. Find 14 on your number line. This time around, it should be a solid dot, right? Solid dot because of the line underneath. And x is smaller than 14. So I want my arrow to go to the left, because that's where the smaller numbers are. All right, next up. Not using this one. We are going to do, let's see here, negative 6x is greater than or equal to 48. Negative 6x is greater than or equal to 48. All right, we're trying to get x by itself. What would I do to get rid of that negative 6? It's multiplying by the x. We're going to divide by a negative 6. Uh-oh. Warning. We just divided on both sides by a negative number. What does that mean? We've got to flip the sign. So we flip the sign around. Now it's x less than or equal to 48 divided by negative 6 is negative 8. And we'll go ahead and put a, what's that, closed dot at negative 8. X is the smaller thing here. The alligator is not eating the x, so x is smaller. So we want to go in the smaller direction, so that's this way. You guys are doing awesome. Any questions so far? Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. Changing this one completely also. We're going to go with 5x is less than negative 20. 5x is less than negative 20. If I wanted to solve that, I need to get x by itself. What are we going to do on both sides to get rid of that 5? Divide. Now, should I flip my sign here? Am I dividing on both sides by a negative number? No, so the sign stays the same. Now, the number that's dividing is negative, but we're not dividing by a negative number, so the sign stays the same. So x less than negative over a positive is going to be negative. 20 divided by 5 is 4. Go ahead and graph that for me. You're going to need an open dot at negative 4. X is smaller, so we're going to the left again. All right, you guys feeling all right? I'm going to get into some trickier ones now. You ready for it? Not that tricky. I'm going to put my work down below here because I think we've got room to finish this one off. All right. Give me 2 minus 5x is less than or equal to 27. Two minus 5x less than or equal to 27. You're going to need to write kind of small here. Super common mistake in Algebra 1 would be to try and combine this 2 and this negative 5x together. Are we allowed to do that? Can I do 2 minus 5x? No, the 2 doesn't have an x. Those are not like terms. We're going to have to get rid of the 2 separately, and we should get rid of it first. What should we do to get rid of that positive 2? Let's do minus 2 on both sides. Is that going to flip our sign? No. So we would still have negative 5x. It would still be less than or equal to, and 27 minus 2 is 25. One more step to get x by itself here. We're going to need to divide to get rid of this thing. I'm dividing on both sides by -5. What's that mean, though? We got to flip the sign this time. Since we're dividing by a negative, we must flip the sign. So this is going to become a greater than or equal to. It should be a solid dot. It should be at -5, which is here. And we want x to be bigger. Bigger numbers are this away. All right, questions so far? This last one, we're going to do it just as it is. This looks like fun, doesn't it? Hey, would I start by doing -1 minus 6 in this problem? Can I do that? This -6 is being multiplied by something, isn't it? What comes first, subtraction or multiplication? Multiplication comes first. So we need to take this -6 and distribute it. That would be our first step. So the -1's going to stay. I'm just going to do my work underneath here. The -1's going to stay. -6 times 3 is -18. -6 times 5x is -30x. And we got a 229 over here. I didn't write my sign because I got a question. Should we flip the sign? We did just multiply by a negative number. Is that when we flip the sign? What's the thing we're missing here? We did not multiply on both sides by the same negative number, so we do not flip the sign in this case. Write small because we got a few more steps to do. Next thing I'd be looking to do is combine some like terms. I think I got some like terms over here I could stick together. That -1 and that -18 look like they could go together. What is that all together? -19. And I'm going to let you guys finish this up the rest of the way. I'm guessing because there's a negative number multiplying by that x that you will end up flipping your sign. Go and wrap this one up, and then we're going to go on. There's a back side to this that we need to complete today too. Oh, you know what? I lost my negative number, my negative on the 229 when I was working it. Did you guys catch that? Did you follow my mistake here? You fixed it? Okay. This is supposed to be a -229. I lost the negative when I brought it down. Good old copy error. It's like the most annoying mistake ever. Doing the math right, just copying it down wrong. All right, we're going to put some more notes up at the top. Before you flip the page over, we're going to squeeze some more notes in up at the top here. I'll give folks a moment to catch up, make sure you got number 8 finished. Let me know if you've got questions on that. Let me know if you see any mistakes in my work. I know I made one up here when I forgot to bring the negative down, but I think I've corrected that. I did flip my sign, and I should have, right? Since I divided on both sides by a negative. All right, go back up to the top here. Let's squeeze a couple more notes in here. In addition to greater than, less than, or equal to stuff, in addition to them having open dots and closed dots, in a moment we're going to be drawing lines. So this is like a solid dot, and solid dots go with solid lines. Solid dots go with solid lines. Open dots go with what kind of lines? Dashed lines. And here's the last trick I'm going to show you. Now this is a simplified version. You guys know I've talked about this with you a couple times. Sometimes we kind of hide the truth a little bit from you in math because we don't need to get super complicated. So when you get to Algebra 2, they're going to give you another way to figure out this thing that I'm about to show you. But I'm going to show you, this will work for all the types of problems that we are going to do. Okay? Just don't be shocked in Algebra if your Algebra 2 tells you, well, it doesn't really work for these types of problems. Okay, so, but this works for linear inequalities when we're graphing them. If you've got y greater than or y greater than or equal to, you're going to shade above. If you've got y less than or y less than or equal to, we will shade below. And you'll see what I mean in just a minute. So if y is bigger, you shade above. If y is small, you shade below. So we got a whole nother page of notes, but these are going to go really quickly because you guys are really good at graphing equations and lines. So flip over on the back side here, and let's do this. So our first equation, notice these have x's and y's, which means we are going to make a graph, and because it's not an equal sign, we could potentially have a dashed line or a solid line, but we will definitely have some shading. So let's start by drawing the line. Is it going to be a solid or a dashed line? Solid line or dashed line for this first one? Solid. All right, well, you guys know how to graph that line. It's the same way that we always do. Normally, we've got a y-intercept sitting out here, but because there's none written, what is our y-intercept? 0. So give me your first point at 0. This is a positive slope of 5 over 4, so that means we're going to be going uphill. We'll be going up 5 and over 4 when we do our slope triangle. So stick your pencil down at 0 here on the y-axis and count up 5 and over 4 and give me another point there. Up 5 and over 4. Give me a point there. And it's nice to have 3 points, so let's go back to here and let's go backwards. We'll go down 5 and over 4 the opposite direction. And we can see our line starting to shape up. And you guys told me a moment ago we were going to draw a solid line for this one, right? So go ahead and draw a solid line. Make sure you put your arrowheads onto it. So far, this is just like what we did back in Chapter 2. The only difference is because this is an inequality, we either need to shade up here or we need to shade down here. Which one are we shading, above or below? Is y bigger or is y smaller? Y is bigger, so we shade on the bigger side. The bigger side is above, so we're going to shade up here. My pens don't really shade well, so I just kind of draw tick lines. But we're basically coloring in that portion of it. All right, this next example is terrible. Scratch it out. We're going y is less than negative 1/2 x minus 4. Y is less than negative 1/2 x minus 4. So let's start by figuring out our y-intercept. We can see our y-intercept this time. Our y-intercept's negative 4. So draw me a point at negative 4. And our slope this time is negative 1/2. So we're going to be going down 1 and over 4. Oh, so down 1 and over 2. So put your pencil or pen down at negative 4 there. Count down 1 and over 2 until you run off your graph. And then back it up the opposite direction, up 1 over 2, till we run off the graph. And this time around, are we going to make a solid line or a dashed line? Dashed line. So when you go to draw that line in there, make it a good dashed line. And then we got to decide if we're going to shade above that line or below that line. It says y is less than, y is smaller than. Is that above or below? The smaller numbers are below, so we're going to shade below the line this time. All right, see what you can do with these last two, but change number 12 so that you can actually graph it. Let's make it 1/5 instead of 8/5. Graph those last two for me. And then I'm going to get you guys started on the assignment. We'll do the first couple problems together. Oh, come on. There's 5 there. Can you guys take a couple and pass them back behind you, please? There's 2 for you guys. Take one of those and pass it down, please. Take one of those and pass it down, please. There's one far in there. I feel like I maybe gave you guys an extra. No? Did I? Did you both get one? Yeah, okay. Maybe 2 extras. Yep. Y is less than, so shading below the line. Plus 4. 5th. 5th. This one's dashed. Y is greater than, so we shade up above. Is that what your graphs look like? Hey, let me walk you through a couple problems from each section. Well, one problem from each section here, because this is a little bit different. 1 through 6 are pretty straightforward. You're going to write an inequality. Just use X for these. So tell me in number 1, what is going to be the number that's going to be over here? The number is always where the dot is. I'd say the number is going to be 3. And then look at the arrow and tell me if we're shading where X is X going in the bigger direction or the smaller direction? X is going in the bigger direction, so we want the alligator eating the X, right? X is bigger here, so the alligator should be eating the X. And then the last question is, should there be a little line underneath my symbol? Is it X greater than or equal to? It's a hollow dot, so it's not. So it would just stay like this, okay? I'll give you a hint in the second one. It's going to be X greater than or equal to because it's a solid dot. Can you guys skip down to number 7? Let's go over number 7 really quickly, and then I'll be quiet and let you guys finish up. What would you do to get B by itself here? What would you do to both sides to get b by itself? Plus 12 on both sides, I agree. You guys following along, please do not miss this. This is different from how it looked on your notes. This is the assignment. This is the assignment. Bless you. Whoops. So I got b, and then should my sign flip or no? My sign should not flip because we didn't multiply or divide on both sides. Sorry, I'm just turning off my ringer. And then negative 6 plus 12 is 6. Now, I do need you to graph this. Let me show you how to graph this. This is really simple. Okay, I want you paying attention here because I don't want you doing more work than you need to. Draw me a number line off to the side. You're only going to put 2 tick marks on your number line. Right in the middle, I want you to put 0. You got 0 right in the middle? And then I want you to put where 6 would be. It's a positive 6. Should that go over here or should it go over here? Left side or right side? Where's positive 6? Positive 6 is over here someplace. Put another tick mark and put a 6. You do not need to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just put a single tick mark where 6 is. Okay, so for each of these, just give me 2 numbers. 0, and then the important number for that problem. Always put 0 on there, but then the only other number I need is the solution. Now tell me, are we going to have an open dot or a closed dot at 6? Open dot at 6 because it doesn't have the line underneath it. And it says b is less than. The alligator's not eating the b, so b is smaller. So give me an arrow heading to the smaller direction. So on these ones, you're going to have to make your own number line, but don't get overly complicated with it. Just put 0 on your number line and put your solution. If it's negative, if it had been negative 6, we would have put it over here instead. You guys get the idea? You do not need to draw a million tick marks, okay? All right. You guys get after that. Let me know if you've got questions. And we'll get back together at the end of class for exit ticket.